I've always loved late-night walks. There's something about the stillness that makes everything feel simpler. I'm a welder by trade. Been doing it for over 40 years. I live alone on a big farm with my dog, Bosley. The house is too large for one person. But I couldn't bear to downsize after my wife, Maria, passed away. My kids moved out years ago, and ever since cancer took her, it's been just Bosley and me. One night, after a long day in the shop, I decided to go for a walk. My property is pretty big, so just one loop is usually enough to satisfy that craving. The air was cool, and Bosley trotted beside me. Sometimes I think he's fonder of me than I am of myself. I've walked that path hundreds of times, but that night, as I was heading back to the house, something caught my eye. I looked up at the second-story window, the one from the bedroom Maria and I used to share. For just a second, it seemed like something moved. I froze, staring at that window. No one had been in that room for years. I hadn't had the heart to go in myself. Just the thought of a stranger in my house set my blood boiling. I rushed inside, my heart pounding, and ran upstairs, only to find the room exactly as I'd left it. Empty. Silent. I looked everywhere, but nothing was out of place. Still shaken, I tried to convince myself I'd imagined it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had been there. The next night, Bosley woke me up with a low growl. He's a good dog and only barks when there's something to bark at. I sat up, listening carefully. That's when I heard creaking, footsteps from upstairs. My stomach turned. Directly above me was that room. I thought about grabbing my rifle, but I held back, confident I could handle whoever, or whatever it was. Armed with a flashlight, I checked the room again, and everything was the same as before. But the tension was building. The house didn't feel right. The following night, I found the kitchen lights on, even though I'd turned them off before bed. There was no doubt anymore. Someone was here. In a panic, I called the police, but after searching the house, they found nothing. They told me to call again if anything else happened, though I could tell they didn't quite believe me. The worst was yet to come. One night, unable to sleep, I went up to that room again. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but when I opened the door, I froze. Maria's clothes, which I had packed away, were scattered across the floor. As I stood there frozen, I saw her, a woman in the doorway, just staring at me. She wasn't Maria. She was shorter, but she was no less real. Instinctively, I ran toward her, but she dashed down the stairs and out the door. By the time I got outside, she was already gone. For months, every little sound set me on edge. I kept my rifle by my bed, waiting. One night, as I sat in the living room, I noticed a silhouette outside in the yard, staring at me through the window. It was her again. I grabbed my rifle and ran outside, Bosley right behind me. She just stood there, silhouetted by the moonlight, watching me. I fired a few shots into the air and she disappeared into the darkness. But I didn't feel any safer. I haven't seen her since, but I know she'll be back. Living in this constant tension isn't sustainable. Thank God for Bosley. I don't know what I'd do without him. If anything changes, I'll be sure to let you know.